I'm Meredith.
And I'm Bella.
On today's episode of M&B's Fun Facts of the Decade, we will be discussing household appliances.
But not just normal household appliances. These ones have played a big role in the economic boom of this decade.
Today, household appliances affect our lives very much, even though we might not notice it anymore.
But Meredith, it was only a few years ago. I mean, imagine not having leftovers of that casserole, or a nice cold refreshing soda.
Remember when we had to use a broom to sweep our floors?
And remember not listening to that phonograph after a long day of work?
Household appliances such as the fridge and freezer, vacuum, and radio skyrocketed in popularity and demand earlier in this decade.
Americans want life to be easier, work to be shorter, and we crave for a nationwide social connection.
These appliances have made that possible.
So, without further ado, let's talk about the fridge and freezer.
The fridge was first invented in 1748 by William Cullen, but in 1927, the General Electric Company introduced the first electric refrigerator called the monitor top in 1927. It was sold at around a big $350.
Before the monitor top, fridges and freezers kept food chilled with large ice cubes, which had to be frequently replaced. The monitor top allowed Americans to keep food longer and easier with less hassle.
Thanks to General Electric, we can always count on a nice cold glass of milk in the morning.
Don't forget ice cream.
Next up, we have the vacuum.
The vacuum was originally invented by American Daniel Hess in 1860. In fact, it had been originally called the carpet sweeper. Its main goal was to make the household chore of sweeping for housewives faster and easier without having to use a broom and being hunched over all day long.
A few years ago, in the 1920s, the vacuum became more efficient and useful way after Airway Sanitizer of Toledo, Ohio, created the first vacuum cleaner with a disposable bag, making household cleaning for wives a quicker and less painful job.
But what made the vacuum even more popular a couple years ago in 1924 was when Gustav Solon, a Swedish inventor, introduced the electric tank vacuum.
The U.S. company Hoover Vacuums followed along in 1926 with a new and improved electric vacuum. Recently, it became essential in the typical American household.
Just thinking about sweeping my whole house makes me want to cry. I feel bad about my poor grandmother in rural Iowa who still has no electricity and she can't use one. Anyways, why don't we move on?
Sounds like a good plan.
Last but not least, we have the radio.
We Americans wanted entertainment and news that was easily accessible as well as easily shared. We filled this need with the invention of the radio, and it is now known as the wireless telegraph.
Although the radio wasn't actually first invented in America, but actually by Guglielmo Marconi in Italy during 1895, it didn't become popular until this decade.
The first radio station in America was KDKA. It was licensed on October 27th of 1920 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The first broadcast aired at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, November 2nd, 1920.
It was actually the announcement of Warren Harding, the Republican candidate, beating James Cox, the Democratic candidate, in the election of 1920.
Wow, I remember that election.
Some of the most popular programs we listen to today are sports programs, musical programs, and daily news.
Radio sales skyrocketed from $60 million in 1923 up to $842 million in 1929, with the typical radio selling at around $150.
It has made the U.S. more connected with one another as well as more attracted towards the concept of sharing knowledge.
I sure agree with you on that one, Bella.
All these new advancements in household technology helped our U.S. economy tremendously.
These household appliances led to a boom in consumer culture, especially due to the amount of work that they relieved from the typical day of an American housewife. I know my sister sure was glad. She no longer has to wash her clothes by hand.
And I can now preserve my food longer, too. The radio also now supplies more entertainment to Americans, which we all love. Normally, I would go out to the club to listen to music, but now, even with the radio, I can relax and do just the same thing at home listening to a musical broadcast.
Those are my favorite! In total, these inventions now allow for more leisure time and less work, which is something we for sure enjoy.
Well, Meredith, I think we've reached the end of M&B's Fun Facts of the Decade.
I think so too. Now let's just take some time to reflect on what we've learned.
With the help of the high demand of household appliances, along with other technologies in this decade, America's economy was able to rise so much.
With our want for more time and less work, we may have never been able to achieve what we have today. Just imagine how different our culture would be without the fridge, vacuum, and my favorite, the radio.
Chores would be even worse than they already are.
Oh my, that's a good one. I'm Meredith.
And I'm Bella.
Tune in next week when we discuss the new hairstyles we've been seeing around town.
Bye.